Good evening.
Greetings,
Good
everyone.
evening. Good evening.
Hi, everyone. So I'm going to go around and I'm going to make our introduction. So guys, we were just in a really, really amazing workshop. So I apologize for not starting exactly at 8:30 because it was really, really amazing. So I want to just welcome you guys to the 2021 Courageous Moms Retreat. This is the workshop on co-parenting. And instead of us as women just talking about co-parenting, I thought it would be amazing to have some men panelists come in and tell us their thoughts on co-parenting. So I invited everyone. I'm just going to have everyone, all the guys, go around and introduce themselves, if you don't mind. And I guess we'll start with Derrick. Just tell us where you are from.
All right, greetings, everyone.
Mhm.
All right. I am Derrick Robinson. I'm a professor at the University of Memphis, where I'm currently at. I am from the DC area, Northern Virginia to be exact. I lived in Charlotte for about 10 years, and after earning a PhD, I've been kind of on a tour. I've lived in South Dakota, and then moved from there to Memphis. And now I'm getting ready to move to Jacksonville, Florida, taking a position at the University of North Florida.
Good. All right,
Duval.
James, you're next on my list.
Duval.
Man, Derrick, so you sound like you supposed to be on the radio, brother.
I know. Quiet Storm came in. I was like, wow, gotta follow that.
Yeah, I feel you. All right, so I'm James Harris. I'm located in Richmond, Virginia.
Little shoe flats back there going on. So there's some feedback, you guys. So there's a delay, and I think there's some feedback. So we apologize. And we love your sneaker setup back there, James.
Yeah.
Oh yeah. My little one doing homework downstairs in the office, so I'm in the shoe closet. But I'm James Harris. I'm located in Richmond, Virginia. I'm a father. I'm a veteran. I'm also a therapist. I do community-based services as well as private practice. And I'm also an author of a book called Man, Just Express Yourself, which is an interactive planner guide for boys and men to better express themselves. Tough conversations, emotions, feelings, trauma, grief, abandonment, just a lot of different stuff that men normally don't talk about in different settings. So, and I'm also the founder of a movement called Men to Heal, which focuses on men's overall wellness, that mental health as well as that physical health.
Awesome. AB? You're on mute if you're talking. I think you're talking. You're on mute.
Good evening. My name is Adam Bracewell, or AB Bracewell. I go by. That's my author's name. I'm from Philadelphia, Pennsylvania. Well, originally from New Jersey, but I reside in Philadelphia right now. I am a therapist, a mental health therapist. I specialize in marriage and family therapy. I am also an author of 2 books. One entitled Ready for Relationships. The other one is entitled From Relational Hurt to Spiritual Healing. I am the founder of Ready for Relationship Consulting. And it's a pleasure to be here tonight. Thanks for inviting me.
And Taye, finally.
Is my camera showing up? I don't
No,
see
we
it.
can see you.
Yeah, I've turned it off. I kept looking. I've been messing around with it. I apologize for that. But my name is Octavius Taye Walton. I am a civil environmental engineer and a Christian life coach. I live in Atlanta, Georgia, but I'm originally born and raised in Birmingham, Alabama. I'm working on my book. I actually plan to have that out later this year. And my moniker is Inner Fitness Coach, and I like to really focus on the inner fitness versus everybody coming to me trying to need a personal trainer. I think fitness starts from within.
Love it. So I guess we'll get started with some questions. I have some preset questions, and then I want you guys to just add in as you see fit. So the first question is for anyone that wants to share, how has your journey in co-parenting been, and how did that start out for you? So share just about your co-parenting experience.
Us?
No, the guys.
Oh,
Anybody that, I mean, any of the guys that want to just join in and tell us about how you got started as a co-parent.
I can jump in. Since my video is not working, I got to make up for it with voice. All right. No, I was married in my previous marriage for 6 years. We got divorced. Well, we separated in 2013, and the divorce became final in 2014. So we began our co-parenting journey in our co-parenting journey in 2013, doing the separation. It was pretty amicable at that time. Everything was great. We were doing week to week. I was paying child support, and then things got complicated when I got remarried in 2015. That's when it wasn't as amicable. It was a little bit more difficult. And in late 2016, my ex decided that she wanted to remove custody from me. So she went to the court, and she also wanted to increase child support. 2 years and tens of thousands of dollars later, uh, the judge ruled in my favor. And I'll be honest, I didn't think it would be like that. I actually thought that the odds were stacked against me. But if I can say anything about it, if you just be an active um, participant father, the thing that kind of crucified it was I never erased text messages. And so when the judge asked me to ask both of us to download the software in our phone and upload our text messages, it's unedited, nothing you can take out. And so all the things that were said in the discovery about me that I argued against that wasn't true, it kind of showed. And so in the end, I ended up getting custodial custody, and the child support was shifted to my ex. Um, and I became more decision maker of the schools and activities. But um, I was always more mature about it. I realized that it always needed to be both parents involved. I never wanted to actually shun her out because I have two daughters, and they need a strong female figure in their life. And so I think the judge saw that I would be responsible with that. And so that's how we've got here. I've actually, since that has happened, I've been a facilitator with Blended Life Ministry in my church. And we've been actually trying to give other people those tools, some of the things that we went through to help them through their life.
Wow, that is an amazing, I call it a testimony. That is an amazing testimony. Thank you for sharing that. Anyone else want to share how they became a co-parent?
Yeah, I'll go. Man, Mr. Walton, I don't know if you can see me clapping, man. I know you're having camera issues, but I'm glad that you was able to obtain the custody that you was on, that you have. I'm in a similar situation. So I was deployed in 2014, and I get this letter on near Thanksgiving, right? So being in Afghanistan, mail is 2 to 3 weeks on delay, for shipping reasons or whatever. So this letter says I'm moving out on November 1st, and I'm taking our daughter with me, whatever the case is. Mind you, like prior to that, I'm FaceTiming my daughter, we talking before my deployment. I'm thinking everything is good or whatever the case. But apparently it wasn't. Anyway, come back home on like Christmas Eve from my deployment, and of course by this time they've been gone like a month. So it's Christmas Eve. My car hadn't been started, so I couldn't get around, and the house was a mess because they took everything. She took everything and moved back in with her mom or whatever the case is. So boom, here we are. So within that process, she filed for child support without the custody, without the custody agreement. So to me, like, it was never a question whether I'm taking care of my daughter or not. It just was more so for her. I guess people was in her ear. So I went and filed for, of course, the visitation. And from that process, it was, I guess, since I was still, within that phase of deployment and stuff like that, the judge granted me only every other weekend, which was terrible. So anyway, throughout the years, I continued to fight. As far as child support, like I was paying $1,500 a month without the court involved. Just me, yo, you got my kid or whatever. One kid, she was 2 at the time, right? Now she's 9. So anyway, she went back because people was in her ear like, yo, if he can pay 15 without the courts involved, you probably can get more. So she listened to them or whatever. And this time the judge did it based on the numbers. The mediator did what they did, then the judge did what he did based on the numbers, and then reduced it to $1,000.
Wow.
Yeah, so throughout that process though, it still was terrible because she know me, and within that relationship, she was bashing like or encouraging her other friends with deadbeat dads who do absolutely nothing for that child to no, don't get them people in your business, work with them, let this happen, let it pan out. He's whatever the case is. But the first thing that she do immediately when we separated or whatever the case is get the people in our business. So it was just so ironic to me. And for her, it's a lot of resentment. So co-parenting is not as amiable as it could be just based on those situations. Because of course she looked back and she regretted because everything I set out to do within a relationship, I've accomplished now outside of her. And she viewed it as like, oh, she's missing out. Because the same people that was in her ear then is in her ear now and saying, oh no, he got this article, he was just on the news, or he got this book, or he's doing XYZ with his business. So for her, it's oh man, you know what I'm saying? So that rolls over to co-parenting though, which is a issue because she put us in this position. But like you, boss, I never let my daughter see that side of, because she'll discover that on her own. My job is to ensure that I'm the effective parent as well as I can be. And me being a therapist, some of my clients, whether they're adolescents or adults, I see the impact that those things can have. So for me, I view it as a situation as well. Like, yo, kids need both parents. Like, I would never put her in a situation to where, I would want like sole custody and you just get every other weekend or whatever. No, we need both should be involved because it's effective for the development of the child. So anyway, we went back to the court literally last month, and well, prior to that, I was granted like Tuesday through Thursday every other week, but I never went back to change child support, so I was still paying $1,000. But last month I was granted. Now I got my daughter Friday through Thursday, so we got the same schedule basically. But she went back to refile in a separate court for child support increase. So I'm like, what are you thinking? So hopefully the judge see through that and they gonna do the numbers again and they see like not only does he have his daughter Friday through Thursday like you, but he never adjusted the increase from when he got the additional Tuesday through Thursday. So that's probably a decrease as well. But for me, it was never about the money. It was about the relationship. Like, yo, why would you be so opposed to me having more time with my daughter, having more abundance time with my daughter? Like, so it's one of those situations that's a wild experience. I remember going down there and file for custody. It was 6 women in there and they was looking at me like, what are you doing down here? And so I'm like, not trying to get more visitation. So for them, they couldn't fathom it because they were, potentially with males who didn't want to be involved. So that's why they were down there. So to see me down there was the opposite reaction. So, I started talking to the women there. We talking, laughing and joking and everything. But to me, I was like, dang, like, I can't believe I have to do this. Like, not to the person whom I was married to, whom didn't do that, but did child support. Like, to me, it just was a whole whirlwind. So now we're here. So in a couple weeks, we go back for the child support thing. But, we'll see what that is. It's not an issue of money. It's just an issue of like principle. Why would you try to get more money when you have a significant amount of less time? So we'll see what happens.
Wow. So this is like present day for you.
Yeah, we literally went last month, and that's why I got the additional 2 days now. So we both have her. Like I just dropped her off this morning at school. So her mama have her tomorrow to next Thursday. Then I pick her up on Friday, and I have her until Thursday. So we literally got the same schedule. You know what I'm saying? So yeah. So I guess they're gonna take all that into consideration.
Okay. Derrick or Adam, or either one of you?
Yes. Yes,
Yeah.
I think I come in on the back end of this. My co-parenting experience started at 22 when I became divorced father of two. And they moved to Wilmington, Delaware, where she was from, and I stayed in Washington, D.C. And it started that process of being able to drive up, get them on a Friday night, and get them back by Sunday so that I can continue working as a teacher. And at that time, I thought we would be able to peacefully do this. My parents had divorced, and they divorced so smoothly, I didn't even know that they divorced, you know, and then they always got along. Even to today, they still get along, you know. I thought mine could be like that. We could at least respect each other. We sat down when we were having these kids. We said the things we believed in and the core values we wanted to instill and all of that kind of stuff. And I think what happened with her was she still wanted the relationship. And because of that, things got ugly. I mean, going up there, you drive from Washington, D.C. to Wilmington, Delaware for 2.5 hours, and then sit in her parking lot for about 2 hours. And then she calls you and says, well, you can't have them. Now I got to turn around and go back.
Wow.
Or she tell me, well, you get them next week. You know, it was just ugly little things that was done. I've tried to get custody twice, lost. She came down one time and beat me. This is how long ago it was. She beat me. And I went to a payphone because I didn't have a phone at the time. So I went to a payphone, called. She said, I'm on my way to give them to you. And she came down and met me at a Wendy's with all their stuff in a trash bag.
Wow.
You know, and I went through that, and then when it looked like we were surviving, here she comes with the sheriffs, and she got him again.
Wow.
You know, so they went through the ugliness of it. And that's why I was wondering, like, why y'all invite me to a situation about this? I can speak more about what I've seen co-parenting and its effect on schools, though. You know, when you take your children to school, I've seen that effect. But ours was ugly, and the ugly part was she still wanted the relationship. And if she couldn't get the relationship, she was going to make sure she was going to hurt me back to her. And it came out, it manifested in the kids. My daughter was the first one to see it. And when she got over a certain age, she began to buck back with her mom. And actually then went to live with her grandmother, but no one let me know that. My son got kicked out of high school. And when I said, okay, fine, give them to me. I got a school connections down here. I can get them going. At this time, I'm living in Charlotte. And I'm an assistant principal. I can get him in schools, and I can get him out, and I can get him to college. She wanted to know, was the money going to still keep coming up that way?
Wow.
You know, that was her issue. It wasn't about doing what was right for my son, you know, but he eventually, and you know, guys are not going to let go of that love for mom. But even he came around to start seeing that mom is on something different, you know. And I guess after she took out some credit in his name, you know, he began to see how this whole thing was going. But now they're 27 and 28 years old, and their life is on track, and our relationship is greater now. So I would say to anybody, and particularly any co-parent, watch how you act, because your kids will see it, and ultimately you're gonna pay for it.
Yeah. Thank you so much for sharing that. You know, let me just say that, Adam, we're coming to you, but let me just share something. Because typically we don't hear a lot about the women acting up. We don't hear a lot about the destructive things that women do while co-parenting. And so you, Derrick, why do we invite you and Taye and James and Adama, I'm sure, is because I think that there's something to be learned even from the experiences that you guys have had. And your perspective, I think, is very much needed. So thank you for being so honest and vulnerable and transparent for us tonight, okay? Somebody has a question already?
Yeah, I have a question. Okay, so this is good. I'm glad you're here. You're here for me. Okay, so I'm engaged right now. And my significant other, his baby mama is ghetto and crazy. Like, I don't understand. She won't let the baby come to our wedding because she still wants him. So she won't let the baby come to our wedding. She won't let the baby come out of town. She told me if I come to the football game, she gonna beat my tail, which I ain't scared. You know, let's make that clear. I'm not scared, but I won't go because that's a child, you know, and in that atmosphere. There's a bunch of kids, and I don't want to be ghetto like you. And then on top of that, but she'll be like, oh, he need new clothes and new shoes. So I'll go and get the clothes and new shoes, you know what I'm saying? And like the son, like the other day, he was like that he was like, I don't know why my mom always gotta cause drama. Cause he want me to come to his game. So how would you say that we should approach a situation like that? And he's 8, so.
So, to be honest with you, I think that's a situation. I had a similar situation with a couple that I was counseling. So from the standpoint of, I guess that your fiance in this position or your husband in this position has to set those firm boundaries and enforce them. Like, you are in his life now, so whether he need to go back to court and get an amendment saying, hey, the fiance or the wife are privy to this information, or can come to games, or the 8-year-old can be around her, then that's what it is. So I don't know what state you in, but in Virginia, that's what we'll have to do, is get the order amended to say that. Like, for a long time, I couldn't have overnight guests, of the opposite gender for those reasons. But of course, engaged, married, or whatever, I would have to amend those things. So I don't know what state you're in. So you might want your husband to look at your fiance to look those things up and go from there. But at the end of the day, to keep the peace, continue to do what you're doing, because yes, that young one is observant, and it's important that he sees at least that sane adult within you. And again, they gonna understand it. They gonna go from it. But the easier way is to have father enforce those boundaries. Like, hey, we're together. She's a part of the 8-year-old life. So we're doing interactive family stuff here. They need to see this. They want this to happen. So it's not about you and I, it's about the child. So go from there. But to keep the legal side is, you may need to get that amended within the order that dad has.
I think
Brother's definitely right. If I say anything, you have to model what womanhood is going to look like for him, because he's going to learn what kind of women to allow in his life based on the women he's seen. And if he sees happiness over here and a relationship working over here, then he may have a better decision-making model to choose a woman from. And that's going to be important, because if all he sees is ghetto and ratchet and I'll fight you and things like that, he believes that that's what women do. And that's the type of, relationship I should accept. And then that cycle continues. So model womanhood and know that you're being looked at all times. You're always on stage.
So a little plug I'm gonna throw in here is what my man talked about is trauma bonding. So if you're unfamiliar with a trauma bond is, go to my YouTube page. It's a video on trauma bonds. So he may now view how mom is reacting and be drawn to a woman like that, or can run from a woman like that. But if he's drawn to a woman like that, of course, the cycle continues to repeat. And now he's in this cantankerous relationship to where argument is equated with love, or, the domestic abuse or verbal abuse is equated to love. So those bonding cycles are in traumatic fashion to the outside world, but to him in those relationships, it's normal, because 8 years old, this is what he's saying. Again, so definitely go check out that video on my YouTube.
What's the name of your YouTube? I'm gonna put it in the chat. Is it Men to Heal? James?
Seen that shirt before.
Yeah, it is. I'll put my website in there, and on my website you can get to the YouTube channel and the book and my social media.
Okay, good. So I'm going to create a resource list, and you guys will all get this. Okay. All right. Good.
Can I piggyback off that before we move on? Just because that was my life, actually. Like I say, everything was cool, but then when I got re-engaged, that's when, and I'll just be real with you. She was good. I was in that space when I messed with her back before, so I knew she was capable of that. But we had evolved. We had graduated school. We had moved on. But all that came back after I met someone new. And like I say, it was all that. Going to my youngest daughter graduation from preschool, she was all, you better not bring that B type stuff like that. crazy stuff. But I agree with everything the brother said beforehand. But the one thing that I had to do is, yeah, definitely, I took control. I actually had one-on-one talks with her, and because my fiance, she didn't really know. I didn't want to hide behind her in the crossfire. I wanted to actually be the rock on both sides because the best thing, and I'm going to recommend this book, the best thing that was ever given to me during the divorce, we had a guardian ad litem during the divorce, and she gave us this book called, matter of fact, I think it's called Divorce, How to Screw Your Kids Up. It's a sarcastic view. It tell you everything to do wrong, but it's speaking sarcastically as saying these are not the things to do wrong. And yeah, how to screw your kids up. That's it. That's it. Divorce, how to screw your kids up. And I'll get that information to you just to be exact. But the thing about it is, it talks about these exact situations, conflict, how to try to drive a wedge between the different parents. Um, um, it goes on and on. But the one thing that actually pulled everything together, I put us all in therapy. We actually went to co-parenting therapy where we had a neutral party talk about some of these things that were conflicted. It was me, my wife, we were married at that time, and my ex, and we all were in therapy together where we actually talked about some of these things that became barriers and roadblocks for us and talked them out. And having that third party who was also a sister who actually was able to say, if you don't want to be the crazy baby mama, quit doing crazy baby mama stuff. It was like real conversations like that. And it worked. I mean, we still have our cycles every once in a while, but I just remain the rock because, like Brother Derrick said, I have two daughters, and they are watching for what good parenting looks like. When we first got divorced, both my daughters said they never want to get married. That's like it hurts, never want to get married. But like a year or two after that, after they seen healthy relationships, they both had did a complete 180 turn. That stuff means something. I mean, it still choked me up just the other day when my oldest daughter said to me, "Daddy, I want to marry somebody just like you." And I mean, that's the realest thing ever, man. I mean, I was like, whoa, man, let me go duck behind this corner real quick. I'm about to partly cloudy, pencil rain. But yeah, good stuff.
Yeah, that has to be so reassuring to hear that from your baby girl. That's amazing.
I just told her not to say it too loud because we're from Alabama and people might think we marrying each other. I don't want them to get the wrong idea. Don't say that in the public. Yeah.
That's hilarious. AB, do you want to share your journey?
Oh yeah, definitely, definitely. I think my journey is a little bit different. I'll say probably my journey, if I would call it anything, was a journey of two strangers trying to get to know each other through parenthood. We were never married. We were never in a committed relationship. Very early on in the dating process, we became pregnant. Probably I would say 2 months into dating. So it could have gone either way. It could have gone really bad or really good because we didn't know each other. And immediately we jumped from strangers to parents. And through the process of the pregnancy, we hit some bumps in the road. Had some clashes, some small conflicts here and there. But I thank God that she was a mature woman and I was mature enough that we was able to travel through those conflicts. And one thing we always have done is kept the needs of our son at the forefront. Um, I really have no complaints about my son's mom. Our co-parenting arrangements for what is he's going on 13, and it's been almost, I will hate to use the word flawless, but we have not had a lot of bumps in the road because we both are focused on his development. Our love is directed towards him. Every decision that we make, there's communication. And I, I love everything about fatherhood, and I can see she loves everything about motherhood. So there's nothing that she would ask for me or from me for him that I won't do. I'm also a father that wants more time. I want him over more. I want to see him more. If there's anything that he needs, I'm there. So I think that really helps as far as us being on the same page with our parenting. We've never had to be involved with courts, with custody or child support, and I thank God for that. We was always able to sit down and communicate and just be on the same page with things. And so I guess I've been lucky, but I've also have made the right decisions when it comes to I guess our co-parenting arrangements as well, because this could have been times where things could have turned more conflictual than it needed to be. But I think we both have level heads. We both have support from our families. Even though we're still not together, of course not in a relationship, but our families are close, and we put all the focus around the child. And I think that's what has made us successful so far in our co-parenting journey.
This is amazing. So I feel like we have a little bit of each type of relationship beginning here today. And so I guess that was gone because I did not know. But I want to ask you guys a question just based on what you guys just talked about. In terms of fatherhood, what do you guys see the role, and I didn't ask you guys this before, but what do you see as the role of a father? Like what should a father be doing?
And as far as me, I've always said that having a child turned me into a man. I really, as a father, it's our responsibility to be the best possible versions of ourselves, because we're an example to our children. As my son, he looks up to me in everything I do. It's been like that since day one. So, my job is to teach him for one. Like I've always said, I always think my job is to mold him into the man that he needs to be be a productive member of society. So in order for me to do that, I can't just talk about it, but I have to be that example. So there's a lot of things that I used to do before he was born that I had to stop. And there's a lot of things that I had to add into my life. I have to protect him. I have to teach him. I have to respect his mom so he can know how to not only respect his mother, but respect women as he grows up, because he's definitely looking at me, and he's gonna pick up habits from me. So there's so many things as a father. I also have to be corrected. I have to show him love, but then I also have to set limits on him because, as a child. So I don't know, the list can go on and on, what I think a father should be.
Taye, I see your hand.
Yeah, I'll speak to that. I agree. Mine was pretty straightforward. It's still protector and provider, but that changes over the years as they grow. And Like he said, I think when I had my daughters, it did grow me up. It changed me. But I realized that my daughters get their confidence from me, and I didn't ever think that. I always thought it came from following their mom or whatever. But the conversations we have, especially as they get older. My daughters are 13 and 11 right now, and we have very good conversations and things. I have to be smart in how I navigate because they ask those hard questions. They're like, "Hey, why did you and mom get divorced?" So I actually, try to avoid the whole bashing and telling too much, because what you don't want them to do is feel like they got to choose between the parents. What you don't want them to do is actually they view you as bad mouthing their mom, and so they start turning against you, or they turn against their mom because they say, "Mom, how could you do this to dad?" So you have to navigate those. But I realize when I'm walking them to the bus stop, we have some of the best conversations. We talk about everything. And so with that, I have to be kind of that therapist. I have to be there that when they talking about, hey, because in middle school, I'm totally shocked. Some of the stuff they tell me that's going on in middle school, I didn't think that happened until it didn't happen in my life to college. So
Nowadays.
I'm like, yo, this is crazy. So I think as a father, you got to be a protector and provider, and that goes more than just I think about health and security. And when I think about health and security, you got to think about mental, physical, and spiritual. So don't take lightly when you pray for them and tuck them in at night. Don't take lightly that when you get at the table, you say, let's get together and let's talk about what we're thankful for. All of that stuff has actually been a protector and provider because you hear about, women, want security and different things like that. Your daughters want that security. It's not all the time, currency. Sometimes it's just knowing that this is a safe place that I can talk. This is a safe place. I know my daddy and both of my daughters, their love language is touch. So if I'm laying on the couch, they come lay all over me. So I mean, I when I was younger, I said I wanted to be a ladies' man. I didn't have this thought in my mind, but it's times that I feel like, man, I'm a ladies' man. So yeah.
That's beautiful. I have a question for Tay. So Tay, I have a question for you. You were saying your daughter is 13. I have a 13-year-old son, and he do come to me and he asks me like, okay, mom, why didn't you and my dad work out? And the reason we didn't is kind of horrible to tell him. So it's like, what is it? How did you navigate explaining what happened, especially if their mom was a big part of the problem? Of course, we both contributed to the breakup, but if the other parent that they asking you about was a big part of it, like a big problem, like had some issues, some things that you don't definitely, I wouldn't want my son to do to a woman, or so it's certain things that you can't tell a child at 13, but he is 13, so he's starting to pressure me about it more often than not because he's starting to talk to his dad a little bit more. So he got his own cell phone. Talk to him. So it's just like, how do you navigate that when it's really a horror story?
Yeah, it's tough. I mean, and the thing that worked well with me was my parents got divorced when I was younger, and they both, just keep it real, they both lied. As I got older, I put the story together, and then I got them to confess the truth. So I didn't want that pattern to repeat. But also, in my situation, I'll be completely transparent so you can get the whole picture. With me and my ex, we broke up because my ex, got here to Atlanta, and just keep it all real, she got turned out. She wanted to like bring other women home and stuff like that. And then, me, being involved in church, I was like, yo, chill, you know what I'm saying? And it became a situation where me trying to be understanding and not saying, woo, 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 but maybe in college, maybe I've been more tempted, but with my wife, nah. And so, but that Pandora's box had opened, and I found out it came from novels that she was reading, romance novels. And long story short with that, you don't want to tell your kid that. You don't want to say, hey, your mom, especially when they girls, But what I focused on when I talked to them about it, I focused on me, because my responsibility was, did I protect my house? Was I doing everything? How it's like the Garden of Eden. When the serpent came to talk to Eve, what was Adam? Why wasn't he protecting her from the serpent whispering something in her ear? Yeah. I felt like that was me. How did I not do I just focus on my part, saying, hey, daddy should have been more protective of his house. Remember, health and security. I should have been, maybe I wouldn't be in the rabbi of my household like I was supposed to. I just try to focus on my part and really just say, hey, two people get together, sometimes we have the best intentions, but it don't work out. I don't really just say, well, she did this, she did that. And again, I try to avoid putting them in the mix where they have to actually point which parent is a good guy, which parent is a bad guy. I just try to show them where I've messed up and how I've corrected and how I can, sometimes you fall down, but you don't have to stay down.
Okay. James, I saw that you wanted to say something.
Yeah, to add to that, I mean, I'm gonna just plug the YouTube again because there's a video on my page, Navigating Tough Parenting Conversations. So that, you can go back, check that video. It may be some tools in there to assist you, because some parent might struggle with talking about infidelity or gender identity and stuff like that. So that video will help you learn different techniques and tools to use with your young child, especially since you are a woman, he's a man or a boy. The perspective might be different. So, use that as a tool to guide your conversation, or at least get tips in ways to engage him or deflect, So go check out that video, Navigating Tough Parenting Conversations.
Okay. So I have another question. So you guys are very much involved, engaged parents, dads. How do we address dads that are not so engaged, that are absent or don't want to be involved, but you gotta do like, I don't know, crazy stuff to get them involved? Like, how do you address that? So I have a two-part question. So I want to ask that, and then I want to talk about dads that may have not had a dad and don't know what a healthy dad looks like, and they need to grow through parenting. So how do we address that part of all of that?
I don't mean to monopolize the conversation, but do any of you guys, ladies, or my fellas on the panel, know the different parenting styles? I think it would go over into your question, your first part of your question, and the last question that you asked. So, do anybody know the parenting styles? It's typically 4 of them in most
What
cases.
are they? No.
Okay, so I'll touch on those real quick, and then I'll we'll answer the question. But the 4 parenting styles is, of course, authoritarian, permissive, authoritative, and uninvolved. So the authoritarian parent is the one who like oppose authority, my way or the highway. They give no choice to the child. Obedience is pretty much demanded. Like respect is coming through fear. It's a lot of criticism in that parenting dynamic as well. And oftentimes, as a community, we often see these young children become rebellious. They start to sneak and do stuff because parents are too strict. They lack the initial like critical thinking skills because the parent make all the decisions. You do this because I said so type. And then of course they fear the parent. With the permissive parent, this is like hands off. It's little leadership within that parenting style. It's a lack of order in most cases. It's pretty much inconsistent too. One week, yeah, you can do that. You can go hang with your friends. The next week, no, we're not doing that. So it's more of the child raising themselves in some cases. It's like hands-off parenting. And what we see in the child development with this specific style is children become out of control. The behavior is not typically what you expect. Like they have a lot of insecurities within themselves because they can't make decisions because they don't know what's right and what's wrong. They tend to be led by different people. They're confused over the lack of structure versus different things when they get outside the home. They feel unprotected in most cases too. The authoritative style is like my favorite style. It's open, it's eclectic. You providing guidance to your child. It's more positive discipline. I'm communicating with my daughter to let her know it's okay to have effective communication, regardless of that parenting dynamic. I want her to have some personal responsibilities, and it's development communication. Eventually, your child right now is going to be an adult. Look, go to work next week and look around your office. You can see a lot of adults in there that's emotionally immature or don't know how to communicate. Once they get met with resistance, they shut down, they walk away or whatever. You probably was in a relationship with somebody like that. So again, the authoritative parenting style is more cooperative with your child. You're giving choices as well as consequences. And then with these children, we tend to see them become more confident. They're competent. They're able to hold conversations. They trustworthy. They're respectable. And they intelligent as far as their social and emotional intelligence, not only in school with our peers, but of course with other authority figures. And then the last style is normally the uninvolved parent, which means that the parent is unresponsive, they're neglectful, they're disengaged, hands off. Like they might send a check here and there, or they might not even call once a week or whatever the case is. And of course, with these young children, we see them looking for that parent in other figures, whether that's joining a gang to find guidance or, hanging with the wrong crowd to feel accepted and feel love, because they've been rejected and abandoned, whether it was intentional or unintentional, so those things can happen. So again, those was the parenting styles. I thought it was interesting that I covered those before we move forward, just so you guys know, just in case, or you can do your research for yourself and figure out which style you're doing and make those adjustments as well, because those things are critical. I see it all the time within practice. Children are rebellious or the parent don't know why the child is reacting a certain way. So Again, the most comfortable style for me is authoritative, is more collaborative, it's more open. And I know we was raised a certain way, like your parents was, stay in a child's place, but we also know that that wasn't as conducive to our upbringing as it could be. You know, it sounded good for back then, but now we're in a different time. And realistically, children are they got way more influences outside of the home than they do from you. So it's important that you adapt, because think about it, they're in school 8 to 10 hours, then they probably got after school or sport activity or tutoring or something. Then they come home. So you probably got dinner, homework, and bed. So that interaction with you is probably like, oh man, we ain't really do nothing. And on weekends you may do something or whatever, but in school, the 8 to 10 hours, they interacting with their peers, they interacting with other adults who may or may not be good models or influencers, but they picking up on this. So again, the influence outside the home is way more effective in most cases than yours inside the home. So you want to make sure that you're not just solely the disciplinarian. You know, it's more interactive, it's more engaging, it's more growth than just I'm the parent, you the child.
So good. Derrick, I saw that you wanted to share.
Yes, I may kind of back into your answer, kind of take the back route. We talked about that tradition or coming from, a broken home or coming from those situations like that. I met my grandfather on my mother's side when I was 20 years old. He died when I was 22.
Wow.
But I remember when my mom and I were moving from Virginia to Atlanta, she and I engaged in a conversation about him. As it turns out, I come from a family of broken men, all on my mother's side. All of them have been broken. But she told me the story about how abusive and possessive and color struck and everything that could be wrong my grandfather was. At my grandfather's funeral, I learned about who he really was. And based on his life, he never had a chance. I mean, it's some ugly stuff from the time he was 5, right? So his way of thinking was just off. And I went back to him like, Mom, you got to forgive him. You got to get that hate out your heart because he never had a chance. And she knew the story about him, but it was the pain of what she saw growing up, right? Now, I give you that. But then to the other point of this, and I'll say this and, let it land the way it land. I have never met a potential father who wasn't excited as hell. He was scared because and let's go ahead and say it, in this white society where white constructions of manhood and white constructions of family, we equate money and manhood too much. So this young boy, whether he's a teenager or, my friends in their 20s and 30s, stuff like that, they're excited about the fact they're going to be a dad. They got all these things in their mind they're going to do. Then, how am I going to be able to provide? How am I going to be able to support? I ain't got X, Y, and Z. And they're still in pain about that relationship. She done moved on. She out here doing whatever and all that kind of stuff. So as we talked about earlier, half of the part of co-parenting is getting over the relationship. My man AB talked about the fact that they had good co-parenting because they respectfully are out of the relationship.
Yeah.
But when one party does not get over the relationship, it's going to be havoc. Now you have this young man who really is watching this girl move on in life, and he broke.
Yeah.
And society's saying that because you broke, you're not a man. And I don't know where we get it. We're the only people who wants to define what a man is.
That's good, Derrick.
So we have to get out of that. We have to get out of these white Western traditions of defining manhood and fatherhood and all that kind of stuff. And we got to talk about decision making. We've always had sorry men.
Mm-hmm.
It's just you wouldn't have sex with them.
Ah.
Now we just having sex with a dude because his eyes pretty. And next thing you know, you're pregnant with a guy you've never investigated his past out.
That's true.
And you don't know if he was scarred or stuff like that. Like my grandfather, I found out had extra kids. Well, it was North Carolina in the South back in the days. Mm-hmm. But based on his mentality, I understand why he would have. done the things he did. We didn't do the homework before we had children, had 13 children with him, you know, but he was broken and all he could offer was brokenness.
It's so good.
Broken, often broken.
So how do we balance
If I,
that? Go ahead.
if I,
Go ahead, AB.
yeah, if I could chime in with your question about how would a woman address the issue with a father that's not involved or inconsistent. The first step I would say, which is such an important step, is that she first has to deal with the hurt, the anger, the pain, the disappointment, the feeling of rejection or abandonment from him not being there. Because the child is feeling it, but I'm sure the mom also feels that as well. And if you don't deal with that, if you don't heal from those emotions and learn how to regulate your emotions before you approach this man about this situation, it's only going to perpetuate the behavior. It's only going to worsen the conflict that's going on. So I would say that would be the first step, to deal with those emotions before you try to deal with what's going on between the father and the child, or the father and yourself. And kind of like the Bible says, like if you're having a problem with your neighbor, you know, after you do that, you try to talk to them, try to speak to them directly. And if you're not able to come to some type of resolution, then you have to bring in a third party. You know, I think for men, especially a guy that's not involved in his child's life, there's nothing like having another man to talk to him, having another man that he looks up to. Hopefully he has, if he doesn't have a mentor, he has a family member that can speak some wisdom into him, or, you know, he has a friend that can speak some wisdom into him. And us guys, it's kind of like that iron sharpens iron thing. I think if he can surround himself with enough positive men, enough positive influences, that will start to take an effect on the way he thinks and the way he sees that relationship between him and his child, or him and his mother's child. I mean, him and the mother of his child. But the important thing is to heal from your emotions, then try to talk to him directly. And if that doesn't work, you know, you call for some help. Even if it's family therapy, if he's willing to do that. But kind of like what the brother was saying earlier, is a lot of this stuff starts from the beginning with who we decide to sleep with, who we decide to have baby with sometimes. You know, and it might take some healing on that man's side, or a lot of healing on his side, before he's able to sit down and have that conversation, because he probably didn't have any examples of a father and someone that was involved in his life. So he's just repeating that cycle. So it can go very deep sometimes. But I would say start there. Definitely start with the emotions you're dealing with, and then, you know, you try to address the issue with him.
Brother AB is right, man. I just want to piggyback off that. I deal with a lot of this in coaching. You know, a lot of times coaching, you're talking about going for it. And it's been situations where, you know, women say, okay, his dad's not in his life, what to do? And I actually start with that forgiveness, not operating from a place of hurt. And then I also talk about controlling the things that you can't control. You can actually try to, like you say, reach out and definitely make a place for them. But your kids need you to be a rock, need for you to be healthy. And you know, consistency is huge for kids. So if you can be that consistent rock for them, that's the things that you can control. You control your behavior, and hopefully, you know, and y'all brought in so much, brother Derrick and things talking about that. Understanding that would also help with your emotional getting over it, because you know that there are tons of forces against us, and you know, not looking at each other as the enemy all the time would definitely help in your healing process.
And also, you got to remember, like, your job is to be mom. Like, don't try to overcompensate or do anything extra to fill dad's void. Your child gonna recognize that on their own. Your job is to be the support system. I mean, offer that relationship, but sometimes it's not there. Like, but that has nothing to do with you. Um, and that's a hard thing to gather within self, because of course you want to protect your child, but sometimes protecting your child is letting the situation pan out the way it needs to pan out. Because if you try to force it and it's not organic or an authentic situation, it's going to be a lot of resentment there, because now you got your child in this situation to where this person is potentially angry or using displacement and giving your child all this negative lifestyle that they don't need, opposed to just having it happen organically and your child see, oh, all right, well, pops didn't want the relationship or mom don't want the relationship. Let me still focus, do what I got to do to, one, break these cycles, and then two, they will see how awesome of a person I am, and then they will want that relationship. And I think oftentimes too, we got to remember, like, these people, regardless, at one point at time, they were our partners, they were in a different mindset. Now we don't know these people. They're in a totally different situation. So their circumstance might have changed. Their social groups might have changed. Their economic position might have changed. So it's okay for us to just say, hey, all right, cool, do your thing. Come back and, come back in your child life when you need to. But I don't think you should want to force that situation, because it can be damaging to your child.
Especially, I would say, take good inventory of who the father is, because sometimes, it might be better that the father isn't in the picture. It depends what he's bringing to the picture. If he's a toxic individual, if he's violent or whatever the case might be, which could be more damaging to the child. I always believe that a father should be involved, but if the father is damaging to the child, then you have to consider that too. It may not always be the right decision to push for a relationship if that relationship is not beneficial to the child.
That's good. So what do you say to the child that is saying, where's my dad? I want my dad. What do you say to them?
I mean,
That's
I
what my
guess
mom said to me. I said my mom vilified my dad my whole life, and it made me kind of feel some type of way, because everywhere I went, everybody thought I looked like him. So that's. I mean, even when she used to get mad, she's like, "You lie just like your daddy." Like when I was a kid, it was real. Yeah. So, but if anything I can give that can give a positive spin on everything, I have had great mentors in my life. I still have a mentor right now. Sports was my way out. I know it's not there for a lot of other kids, so that's why I mentor. And my fraternity does a lot. Our mentoring is huge in Cobb County, Atlanta. It's huge. So definitely don't be afraid to get your sons involved, and let some men who have a positive influence be able to spend time with them.
I definitely chime in on what brother's saying too. I would tell that woman, don't let him put that crown off. Don't let him take that crown off his head. And we have a concept called other fathering and social fatherhood. There's more steeped in African traditions where we all come around and we play a role. He never misses out on that. We don't disrespect the biological father, and the biological father may even know that we're there for him. But it's erroneous to think that one person can carry that load by themselves in the economy and society that we live in. It's going to take a lot of us, being mentors, being examples, being significant others, being resources, being all of those things, even as just checking in on students. But we have to be able to do all of that and accept all of that. And as men, we got to work on our pride when you see that there's a team of brothers around who are, seeing them on the corner. Hey, what's up, shorty? You're doing good, checking in on them and things like that. Or, if she manages to meet a guy who is willing to take that on and has no problem filling in the gap, you got to now work on your pride. I believe what everyone said, therapy should get you through this. You need to heal from what you hurting from. And you probably need to then work your way out of how is this thing going to look if it's the community raising the child.
I love that.
So,
Try to keep in mind.
accountability is definitely important as well. So, of course, like I know for my circle, is no deadbeats. Like you're not allowed to, display a certain characteristics that's unbecoming of a man around me, my circle, pretty much anybody I associate with, because that's not, you know what I mean? Like, no, it's certain things that you're going to abide by to ensure that we're modeling a certain behavior. But another tidbit I'll leave you guys with is the father wound is a thing, and it doesn't only pertain to men, but it's also pertaining to women as well. So it's a YouTube video on my channel as well on the father wound, where I interview a guru, Phil White, on the father wound, and we talk about the entire dynamic of their situation.
That's good. Well, this was awesome. Do you guys have any questions for the men?
I have one quick question.
Yes.
I know I heard a lot of the men, and this is a fear of mine, I'm in a situation where I'm separated, going through divorce, amicable 50-50 co-parenting. I heard a lot of y'all say it started like that and then shifted. What advice would you give to me or somebody like me to keep the situation amicable? Or is there, any nuggets from that experience so that we can carry that
Great question.
Yeah, great question.
I actually just have one thing I can say that this is a saying. The big saying is, it's not who's right, it's about what's right. And if you keep the kids at the focal point, their well-being, the greater good for them, it won't be about your emotion or who has the power. It's all about what's greatest good for the kid. If it's going to this school, if it's doing this activity, or whatever, it's all about, like I say, even though, like I told you about my situation, even though I have control, I always consult with their mother because I need her to be on the team. If we say, okay, that this one's going to do cheerleading, if she's not involved, then on her weeks, she might not take her to cheer practice. So it has to be some skin in the game. If she's a part of the decision, she feels like she's got some buy-in. And so definitely, it's not about who's right, it's about what's right.
I'll add to that. I have to quote Judge Judy. You need to love your children more than you hate each other. But I'll tell you where it goes awry. And you have to get each other on the same page with this, because there's a school ready to eat your child alive. And when you go in there, and trust me, I've been in the school system for 22 years, and I've watched it happen, and I might have even capitulated in it happening as well. But when you come in there by yourself with your child, those teachers will automatically say, single mother, I'm going to talk to her how I feel like talking to her.
Wow.
And they will use education jargon to talk over your head. Or, y'all remember this, you're going to get jumped. You came in there to meet one teacher, and you walk in a room and there's a team of teachers sitting there because they decided to have a team parent conference.
Wow.
And that's really to take the pressure off that one teacher who's scared to talk to you. You just got jumped. And they come in there like that, but they actually, and I got on one of my married friends, like, man, you need to go in there with your wife because they're going to talk to her like she a single mother, and they're going to talk down to her. You need to let it know that y'all work as a unit. They really back up when they see a family unit come in there, because in white Western thought, they think of family only one way, and that's mom and dad. So when you go into that school, you better go in there armed, because they ready to, it will determine where your child get placed.
Wow.
It will determine what type of trajectory they get on. It'll also get that teacher off your son or daughter's back when they know that they gotta face two adults in this room who are on the same page. Talk to your husband, ex-husband, child's father. Like, we got to go in there as a unified front, and we can argue later, but we're going to love my child more than we hate each other.
I can attest to that, because even I have a 1-year-old, even when her dad picks her up from daycare, like, they are like fearful, like, what do you need? Let me get this right, you know? So I can really, really attest to that people respect when dad is involved so much more. So
It's not that common. I mean, it's really not that common. Like where I'm from anyway, you know, you don't really see the man involved as much, especially with school stuff. Even if he in the home, he's not as involved as the mom. So it's usually
we show up for the football games.
Yeah.
But we got to stop doing that too.
Yeah.
We're gonna show up for the ball games. We just show up for it all.
That's been changing, man. I ain't gonna even lie.
Yeah.
I come to PTA meetings and stuff like that, and it be full of brothers.
That's
Like,
there.
so we been looking at each other like we been like looking at each other. It is changing. Telling you, we in full force now.
Hey, to add to the young lady's question on how to keep it in a good place, in every situation involving your child, I would encourage you to ask yourself, do you want to be right or do you want to be happy? Because some of them joints you might just got to let slide because he has an ego. He probably is in a different place or whatever. So is it worth the back and forth for the drama? Like, just put your kid's situation first, besides you wanting to be right in the situation, if that makes sense. So it's gonna be some of them joints you might just gotta say, you know what? All right, cool. He can go this weekend, or she can go this weekend, or he can do XYZ, or whatever the case is. And some of them, yes, you're gonna have to be firm and enforce your boundary or your stance on that position. But some of them joints, I definitely would encourage you to definitely ask yourself, you want to be right or you want to be happy? Because at the end of the day, it's about the kid. So that's how you can keep it in a good place, by asking yourself that and getting his views on it. Like, all right, cool. Listen, we're in a good place. How can we stay in this good place? I think a lot of people be afraid to ask those conversations. You got to have those conversations with your partner because you moved on, they moved on. You guys are probably going at different rates, different paces. But if you want to stay in this place, how can I help you? Help me understand what you need to make us stay here for the betterment of this kid.
I have a question.
And if I wanted to add my 2 cents to that real quickly. I think it's so important to go into it with the correct mindset. And that mindset will be, you have to look at the other parent as capable and competent. If you look at them as being a capable and competent parent, then your behaviors is going to follow the way that you're thinking. You're going to treat them with a certain level of respect. You're going to treat them with a certain level of trust, and he's going to feel it. Another thing that we often do, which can mess up those arrangements, is that we don't respect our differences. Just because the way I do things over here at my house may not be the exact same way you do things at your house, but if it's not damaging to the kid, I can respect what you do. And a lot of the times we want the other parent to do things exactly how we do things, and that's where we start to bump heads. If I can respect our differences, and if I can realize the thing that you're bringing to the table may not look like what I'm bringing to the table, but when we put our two things together, it's helping this child, then you can keep it peaceful. I'm not the same type of person that my child's mother is. We have different characteristics. We come with different skills, different talents, all those things. But when we put them together as parents and we put them into our child, it benefits him, and it helps our relationship to stay in that good space. We respect each other's differences, and we look at each other as capable parents. We look at each other as competent, and kind of like the brothers was saying, we look at each other as we're inquisitive. I'm at school meetings. She's at school meetings. I'm involved in sports. She's involved in sports. Like, we're interested on what's best for our child. So I think if you can do those things, you can keep it in a good space.
I have a question. My question is, like, you all said that, like, it's good to involve, like, the other parent or whatnot. So, like, let's say I'm trying to involve the other parent, like, making, like, hey, I don't know, she got gymnastics today. Would you like to come? Or, something like that. Or something to that effect, and they're just like, or you're trying to parent the child and you're like, okay, let me call your dad. Maybe your dad has a solution for this. And he's like, oh, I don't care, whatever you say. Or like one day it's super cold outside. This is a real example. It's super cold outside and your child doesn't have on a jacket and she's with him. And when she comes to you, you're like, why didn't you make her put on a jacket? And he's like, well, she said that you wouldn't make her put on one. So I decided not to make her put on one. What? Like, that don't even make sense. Like, it's cold outside. And like, I don't be understanding. Like, I want to call him a dummy so bad, but I want to respect his name while we're here.
So poor judgment. Poor judgment.
So I just don't understand, like, how is it that a father, from my standpoint, a father would not want to be involved in his child's life. And like for my daughter, she's about to be 11, and she says things to me like, well, does my daddy love Ava, which is her sister? She's like, does my daddy love Ava more than he loves me? Or why don't he love me? Or he don't do nothing for me. Why I gotta go to his house? You know, like little stuff like that. And then you come running to me like, why you tell my daughter I love her? I didn't say that. That's her opinion. You know, I never bash her in front of him. We never argue in front of her. We never do anything that to me will demise his character, because I care about what she thinks about her dad. And I want her to have like a relationship with the male, you know, like she sees my fiance and she loves that man. She asked me if when I change my last name, can she change her last name? Like, that's how serious it is. But it's like this man who her father is, she don't care nothing about him. She want to go to his house all the time because his wife is there and because her sister is there. She don't care about him. She said, even as she said, when he's there, she said, all he does is sleep, or if he's not sleeping, he's in his room watching anime. He doesn't spend time with her. He doesn't talk to her, no, nothing. So I'm just wondering, how do you navigate through trying to help your child's father and to help your child have a relationship or try to co-parent with a person that really don't seem like they are interested in parenting?
Can I jump in there really quick? And I'm going to say this, and because I don't know your situation. It has nothing to do, like I'm saying anything to you directly about you. But when you tell a person that day that there's an event that day, it's hard for anybody to make their schedule work for that.
Absolutely.
Having a shared calendar, if y'all wanted like a shared digital calendar or something like that, so you can put these events on the calendar and they get the reminders and there's no excuse to not know, are better. And that's a way of training the person to be active. I had a cousin that I had to jump on her. We had a deep conversation when her son was about like 2, because she was purposely keeping the child's father out of stuff. And I'm like, you're going to train your deadbeat because you're doing this. And after a while, the habit sets in that I don't have a place here. He's going to learn to adjust. And sure enough, my cousin's son's father learned to adjust to being put out the situation. And then when he did get the kid, it was like, I don't know what to do with you. You know, and it became a situation where I'll just capitulate to whatever she say do. You know, we just go to Chuck E. Cheese, we'll do whatever. You know, but it was no real relationship because he was never like allowed to be there early on. So what did he know how to do later? You know, but you have to train them to be active. And although time has passed, I talk to young girls who are having children and stuff like that. I said, don't train a deadbeat. You make him be active. You allow him to be active in the situation from day one, you know, and don't hold things from him. Like she was doing ugly stuff. Like you can keep him from 6 to 6:30. You know, he can't stay over your house, you know, things like that. So he learned to never have him overnight.
Right. Yeah. Gotcha.
You know, so we train them that way sometimes. And I'm not saying that's what you're doing, sister, at all. Right. But you have to give him that space where he kind of knows on his calendar that these things are coming. and his presence is needed.
And can I just say something? I know I'm trying to shut up, but I think that sometimes we also, in terms of training, if someone has gone about for like years and years doing a certain thing, and then now all of a sudden you're trying to step your game up and hold them accountable, they've already learned these maladaptive skills, right? And so it takes time to unlearn all of that, time on both sides. And so you have to be mindful of that too, because sometimes we expect them to just get it right then and there. And that just doesn't work that way with anybody. And so I think that there's a level of grace that needs to be had on both sides. And sometimes we don't give dads enough grace, even in terms of them being able to mess up and learn how to father, learn how to parent. Like we allow ourselves that, right? So sometimes we have to allow fathers to mess up and learn how to parent as well.
Okay, let's see. Okay, I got something to say with that.
Yes.
Okay, so I'm nice to that person. I'm really super nice. Like that man, I don't know, he can do the worst things to me. And I'm like, good morning. Today Morgan got on the color red. Like, I don't know, something weird. You know, I'll involve him in every single thing. I tell him about everything. Like I try my best to make sure he's involved in everything. Morgan failed today. Hello, do you care? Like any and everything. But like, I don't know, because I've got to the point where I'm like, I feel like I'm getting to the point where I'm like, you know what? I can't force you to be here. Like, if that's not what you want to do, then we can go on about our business. Because, you know, it's not that deep for me. But I also know the importance of a father and a daughter relationship, because my father wasn't really around. So I know what I wanted. So my daughter, you know, like, I don't know. It's just weird that, to me, I'm wanting you to have that father-daughter relationship, but you don't want it, and you have baby mamas that actually take their kids from the father. But I'm trying to push her to you. I'm trying to bring y'all together. Like, I don't know. And we've been through the court and the child support and all that mess. That man don't pay not one dime. Like, and I don't care. I don't say nothing to him about it because I don't care. But the other day he gonna call me talking about, yeah, I got a letter from child support. I don't care. Yeah, they said I'm going to jail. I still don't care. Like, I don't care. That's you. I've tried to do stuff for you or help you or involve you, but what more can I do? Like, I feel like I'm not doing something, but I don't know what it is that I'm not doing. Like when for instance, last week I went on vacation, and her school was like, we didn't know her dad was around. Like, her school was so shocked to see her dad pick her up. And then they asked me, was he in the military? Because he was so mean. And I'm like, no, he ain't in the military. It was like, he's mean. I'm just like, what? Like, you can't smile or nothing. It was like, I'm here to, I don't know. It's horrible. So I'm just trying.
If I could chime in real quickly, you're probably having a hard time trying to figure out what to do to change his behaviors, because you probably didn't do anything to make him that way. You know, this probably expands way past you, and you might have to take a different perspective on the situation. Like, what was his examples as a father? I mean, as fathers in his life, did he have his father in his life? Did he have any examples of that? What's his expectations or belief on what a father role is in a child's life? Does he think just knowing me is enough, that we don't actually have to have a relationship? Just the fact that she can come over is being a father? You know, sometimes we grow up with so many different type of influences or so many things missing in our lives that we never get educated on how to do a thing. And it might be he does not know how to become a father, or how to be a father. And it has nothing to do with you, has nothing to do with your daughter per se, is all internal. in maybe the way he grew up, the way he was conditioned, the examples that he had in life. And I think if you get more curious on why he might do some of the things he does, that might give you a different perspective, and y'all can deal with the situation in a different way. He might have a lot of work to do on himself before he learns how to build relationships and build intimacy and open up and communicate with you, with his daughter, or with anyone. So I would say don't put so much blame on yourself. Don't put so much weight on yourself. It sounds like you're working too hard as a mother to make him someone that he may not be right now. He might have to do some work on himself.
And yeah, I just want to piggyback off that. I think you brought it in. I think perspective would definitely make a difference, because some of the things that you're naming are not exclusive to people who are not in a relationship in multiple homes. Even if you was with this person and y'all were exclusive relationship, it may, some of those same things may pop up, but it all comes back to how you deal with them. I mean, I think it's less of patience with it, because y'all are not together. You're like, oh my gosh, this person, I can't believe you're doing this. But if you was with this person, this was your husband, and y'all together, and he forgot to put the jacket on, you probably give him a lot more grace, like Ty was mentioning. I think it's a way that we can engage each other to come on the same page. There still needs to be some type of oneness with raising kids. But again, I go back to that also, control the things that you can control. And I'll ask you this. This is one of the things I use as therapy for people to actually break down some of those barriers and have more of a different perspective on a person. Try to genuinely pray for them. And what I mean is, if you genuinely pray for them, not like, God, take care of them, you know what I'm saying? No, like a genuine prayer. You start to kind of break down those layers of resentment to that person, and you start to do like brother AB was talking about, looking at it from their lens, or having empathy for some of the things they may be shortcoming. But just because you see things different don't mean he has any ill intentions. It's like, and the biggest thing I always use for people, we always look at our spouses or our mates or as antagonists, but we look at our kids different. We know we're raising our kids and they're helpless. But when your kids mess up, you don't be like, oh, this kid, I'm done with them. I can't. You give them grace. Why we don't look at each other like that? You know what I'm saying? Even though we're not together, we still a part of the same village. Why can't we look at each other and say, you know what? I see what you were thinking right there, but this is what I was thinking. Maybe we should do it this way this time. Yeah, saying, oh my gosh, I can't believe you did this. It really is a perspective change.
I have a question. I'm sorry. But look, okay. So you're saying give them grace. I get it. But when does that measure of grace run out? Because I'm going to tell you, I gave this man grace. I do. I give him grace. He forgot my daughter at school 3 times in a row. 3 times in a row. Wow. 3. I gave him grace. Wow. Okay.
But let me ask you something.
Yeah.
Did you hold them accountable in terms of
I did.
What happens when you leave a child at school?
You gotta go get them. What you mean?
Do you have to pay a fee?
No, you don't gotta pay nothing. No, you don't gotta pay nothing or nothing like that. You just gotta go get them. And they called me, so they called me. He was like, "Oh man, I forgot." How you forgetting? You dropped her off in the morning.
Well, I'm gonna go into coach mode in this right now. In coach mode, I'd be like, what systems have you set in place to learn from that happened before? Meaning that if it happened the first time, okay, did we come together and get a plan to set up a system to where, like Brother Derrick was talking about, joint calendars, reminders, or different things to set things in place? Because I can give you a motivational speech and it makes you feel good, rah, say, okay, we're great. But until we set them systems up in place to keep things from happening over again, and that'll help him, because he's proven that he may need to have practice in this area or something that keeps him moving in that direction. Again, we're working on the same team. It's not about his shortcomings and pointing him out how he felt and how you're good at it. So I just say, if you can work with him, and he loves your daughter. So I don't think it's deliberate.
So I think in this situation though, that working with them, that, you know, doing all these extra things can enable him. It sounds like he's being enabled knowing that she gonna pick up the slack. So finding that balance and finding that boundary, I think, ma'am, you continue to extend those invitations, but don't expect him to accept them, you know, and the child is going to continue to have their thoughts at 11 of perception of what dad is not doing. And then that relationship will work itself out. Your job is to, I did my part, you know, don't beat yourself up for something that this grown adult is doing or not doing. You know, I don't know if that's too harsh or not, but at the end of the day, you doing your part. If he is negligent, or again, those attachment styles that I said uninvolved, your child is going to recognize that, and she's going to gravitate to it, or she's going to be distant from it. Your job is to be the parent, the good parent that you can be. He's going to learn, or he's not going to learn, but it ain't really nothing you can do. And at the sad case in this, I think you mentioned that your 11-year-old has other siblings over there. So at some point, he has to understand as a person, like, oh man, I got responsibilities. I got things I got to do. Just listen to you speak. I heard you say "I" so many times. You know what I mean? Like, you took on a lot of the responsibility from him. So in a sense, you could have enabled him, or, you know, the firmness or the accountability wasn't there from other men that he surrounded himself with, or other figures in which he look up to, or whatever the case is. That's on him to grow with. When I meet people within session and counseling that somebody referred to me, whether it's a parent or wife or whoever, I tell them directly, one, I can't help anybody that don't want to be helped. And two, I can't help anybody who doesn't see an issue with their actions. You know, I'm gonna be working against myself. You know what I mean? Like, it's cool if I bill your insurance, but if we're not getting nowhere, you're wasting a spot of somebody who actually want the help. So in this situation, it can be the same thing. Like, you going above and beyond. Make sure your daughter's protected. Make sure that they picked up on time. But all that extra stuff, that's on him to do. You know, don't enable him. Encourage him. Extend the invitation. After that, you did your part.
And I'll say this too, because I'm listening to you as well, and I know this is upsetting you, and has been for some time. You perhaps may need to go and see somebody, just to have somebody to get this off of you, because you can't let that hate in your heart build up. It's not going to be productive for nobody. But for your own sanity, you may want to consider just having somebody to unload. You know, somebody trained to hear you and trained to guide you, but just unload that. As for him, you know, I don't want to, and this, I say this, parenting comes in different stages. Some of us are great toddler parents. I was excellent with toddlers.
Right.
I wasn't that good with like early teens. You know, compare me to the toddler and the preteen, great. I'm becoming a great parent to my 20-somethings. I shine in this stage. My dad shined during my 20s. You know, during my teenage years, he did the talking, I did the listening. You know, that was our relationship. He talked, I listened, we were great. But it comes in those stages. So if he picks it up in the late teens, will you allow him to be? Or will the resentment from what he has not done this far say, I ain't messing with you again. You can't do X, Y, and Z, and then prevent him from being where he may be an excellent father in his 20s when your child is in the 20s.
Oh, that was a question. Look, because I was just thinking.
No, it wasn't a question. It really wasn't a question. I'm just saying that, you know, you don't want to build that resentment, and then you don't allow him.
Well, listen, it is 10 o'clock.
Yes.
And I want to respect you guys' time. It is still a weekday.
Oh,
So I really,
it
it
sure
is, right?
isn't it?
I just realized that. So I want to just thank you guys for coming in and helping us to clean our lens in regards to co-parenting. I really, really appreciate it. I got something out of it. You know, so I'm sure everybody's shaking their head like they got something out of it. So I really appreciate it. Guys, if you would just email me your addresses, and any kind of resources that you want to share with the ladies, that would be really helpful for me. I'm putting together a resource list for everyone, and your shirt size, if you have not already sent that to me. Thank you, Taye. All right, thank you guys so much, and I hope you have a great night. I saw we went over a little bit. Any questions?
Thank you.
All right, thank you guys.
No, thank you guys. You guys are
Alright,
great,
thank
great
you.
questions. And I'm already subscribing to you brothers, man. Appreciate y'all.
Yeah, it was awesome. Awesome. All right. Bye-bye.